Hey everyone, in honor of MegaCon this weekend, I'm going to do a little video on publishing initiatives to celebrate Dawn of DC. So let's have a look and a discussion about this. All right, we're going to start with this. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. To clarify this particular quote by Albert Einstein, I think we should go with something a little bit more like doing the same thing with the same variable, with the same static element, and the same personnel. And that would be very appropriate when we're talking about publishing initiatives from major comic publishers. DC, end of 2022, decided that they were going to launch Dawn of DC, forging the future one hero at a time. A publishing initiative is built in order to be a good jumping in point for new fans. Dawn of DC actually sounds pretty cool. Then you remember that DC used Dawn of something a little while ago, and it didn't quite go as well as they thought it would. So, are we talking about a reboot? Well, it's not a reboot. It's a restart of the majority of their big title in an attempt to get a point where people can start new stories. So it's a reboot. A soft one, not an hard one like they did with New 52, but it's still a reboot. Also, they decided that Cyborg would be their title character for Dawn of DC. The guy's a Teen Titan member. That's what he is. That's what he'll always be. Stop trying to make him a thing, DC. It doesn't work. What's so bad about it? Well, DC's been trying publishing initiatives since forever. We'll go only since the 2000 New 52, Rebirth, New Dawn, etc. And every time they do it, their market share crashes. They lose old fans because the old fans are not interested in the new material, and they don't bring new ones, at least not in a significant manner. Part of the problem? Well, it's a reboot. That's what it is. But on the rack, you've got Action Comic 1052. You've got Detective Comic 1066. You've got all of those versions of the Batman comic, all of those versions of the Superman comic. So in the end, you've rebooted something, but you haven't changed anything. Then you have the fact that you have to remember to have read all the previous events before the soft reboot. Because if you haven't, you don't understand what happened that led to the soft reboot. So for New Dawn of DC Rebirth, you need to have read Dark Crisis and Lazarus Planet. Here we have an example of the Lazarus Planet checklist. So in January, you have 5 different comics from 5 different groups. Then in February, you also have 5 different comics. But at least if I look here, some of them are in the same line, but not all of them. In March, you've got 3 comics, including a Wonder Woman comic that hasn't been included in any of the previous one. And in April, you've got another 3. So you need to have read that before you get to really jump in to that new jumping in point. Of course, you also have to be lucky to find all of those comics for a few different reasons. They might not be in stock at your local comic book store. They might be sold out. They might not even have been ordered because half of those comics don't sell anyways. So smaller comic book store will only order those comics for people with a locker. So yeah, jumping in point. Let's say, okay, they've got a new jumping in point. Okay, it might not work, but they're changing the variables. No, they're not. They still have the same cast and crew of people. Tom King is still writing some of the big titles. And we know how much we love Tom King. He is probably the greatest comic book writer in existence and has not messed with fans at all in his tenure at DC. Also, they're also probably going to change other variables, right? Robin is going to go back to Stephanie Brown, and they're going to be having a nice relationship again, right? Of course they are. Same thing with Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent will absolutely revert to being either a normal teenager or a rather masculine one. That's absolutely for sure what they are going to do. So let's talk a little bit about what is the actual competition for our American comics. Do you know how many publishing initiatives Shueisha did since they started out zero. You know how hard it is to jump on to an ongoing manga? Well, let's just discuss it real quick. First, you have to walk into the bookstore. It doesn't have to be a comic store, it can be a regular bookstore. You can also go to Walmart, you can go to Newsstand. Sometimes corner stores have them as well. I know Hachette has special editions that they do for mangas that are done as well, large prints. So it's I know it's pretty hard, but you have to go to a store and try to find a manga. This is very hard, I know. Then you get to the manga section. It's pretty easy to find, obviously, because it's the biggest section there is. Then you have to find the manga you want to read. They've got shonen manga, they got shoujo manga, they got seinen manga, they've got all sorts of things. So I know it can be confusing, but then you start thinking like, yeah, I'd like to read a manga about drinking and choosing wine to match with food, with a bit of a story here between brothers or half brothers. You know, something a little bit different than superheroes. And then you go, there's Good as you grab it, and you bought it, and you've jumped into a manga. That's it. All right. The really hard part, you grabbed your number one off the rack. You paid 12 to 15 bucks for it. You got 144 pages of content with almost no ads. I know this is difficult to understand if you guys read mainly American comics, but in manga, in most published versions in North America, especially in French, you'll get ads at the end for other manga that the company's selling. And if you like what you've read for that $12 to $15, you go back to that same store where you bought that manga and you grab number two. If it's an ongoing, you might have to wait about 3 months between publication of new volumes. And they're usually on time, except around the Christmas period, you know, the end of year period. Sometimes manga could take a week or two break. So sometimes there's a delay with the translation. And that's about it. That's your jumping in point when we're talking about manga. Okay, but what about the crossovers? What about those things? You don't have to worry about that in manga. There's no super events. There's no world shattering super situation that's going to unite all the heroes to do. No. You grab your Naruto and you read Naruto. When you're done with Naruto, there was a sequel to it. So you buy Boruto. Um, if you like Yu Yu Hakusho, you read Yu Yu Hakusho and you're done. And when you're done, well, you're wondering what to read next. Well, you look at the name of the author and you see that he wrote Hunter x Hunter. So you grab Hunter x Hunter and you start reading that. That's what you have to do in order to be able to follow reading your mangas. But come on, comics, they're completely different from manga. It's another monster. Yeah, but which one of the two is making money right now? Are there a solution that DC and Marvel could work on? There's tons of them. A lot of them, unfortunately, will be mimicking what manga is doing. I hope some of you guys want to talk about it. I hope some of people, whoever, decide to watch this video, go through the points that I've made, and want to talk about what solutions those companies could go with. Would some of those solutions be independent comics? That is a possibility. The Rippaverse made a ton of money with their first comic book campaign, but I also feel that they are having issues that they are not acknowledging as well. Same with Cyberfrog number 2 by Ethan Van Sciver. Same with almost all independent comics. They all have issues that most of them do not want to acknowledge. So there are things that need to be done in order to make comics more affordable, one, more readable, more enjoyable. So there's a lot of things that we need to talk about. Will I be posting more videos about this in the future? More than likely. So I hope everybody has a very nice rest of your day. I thank you very much for listening. Keep on reading comic. Keep on enjoying them. I'll keep analyzing them. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.